gonna be so ass.
As you're cutting a little bit sometimes, not too much. Okay.
How major is it?
That's not too bad. It like cuts out a little bit, but then it'll come back on real quick.
Am I too low or something?
No, it's not you're too low.
Oh, probably like internet or Discord itself. Let me update Discord. Maybe that. No, I'm good. Discord.
Yeah, it might be Discord. But
Yeah, Discord's been having them problems lately.
yeah, I don't know what's been up with Discord.
Yeah, I couldn't even have like singing lessons on here, which sucked.
Oh wow. Okay, let me just do this. Let me send this out to everyone real quick. I mean, we're already live right now, but it's all good. Let me just send this all to the different servers. Okay. And now, since we're live right now and people already heard us talking, welcome to my podcast this time with me, Capsule, and my new special guest this time. Well, not new special guest. Guest has already been on at least twice. Feline.
Hi.
Yeah. All right, then. But today on this podcast, this will be more of an interview type thing with him because I've known him for a little bit. He's a cool dude, so I wanted to have more people know about him and spread him out. And you're seeing right now the picture on the screen. He drew that himself, and also his Twitter is also under the what's it called? I can't remember the name now. Under here where all the where's it called? Oh yeah, links and streams are. So you want to go check him out on Twitter? Go there because he makes really good art and he also does animation, which we'll be talking about here as well. So for right now, let me ask the first question of you: Who are you, Feline? Who are you exactly?
That is, assuming you're about to say it's a good question. No, it's not. I mean, it is, but it isn't. But I don't know how to put that. No, I am basically an amateur artist and animator who wants to sit there and try to get into school to sit there and be able to do it as a profession. Um, Aside from that, most of the time, s- if it's not like drawing or something, I tend to just hang out with friends and all that stuff and play video games.
Okay,
Um, I it's not hard to get in contact with me and like be like chill and everything. So it's like I'm not really I'm not really stuck up in like this one particular goal. I'm always in my mind where it's like I should enjoy my life while working towards this goal. And that's just how I am. I'm very laid back in most situations, but at the same time when it calls for it, I will like stay focused on something.
okay,
So
that's nice to know. Well, that kind of leads to the next question. Then, what do you like to do? Like, I know you do art and stuff like that, but what other stuff do you like to do?
I'm pretty much given that I do art and animation. I haven't did digital in actually a bit of time. I've been doing traditional because I my old glove like got lost, so because I just got my new one. So I haven't, so I'm like slightly rusty in like certain things, but yeah, no, I do art and animation, mainly animation part of it. That takes a lot of my time, honestly. Um, and currently I am working on a project.
Okay. Let me see what this. How long have you been doing like the art stuff and animation for a while now?
I've been doing it for about, well, it's really weird. So I've been doing animation for 5 years while I did art for 4 years. Now, how that lines up is that I didn't do full body animation until like my third year of animation. Um, because beforehand I used to do like just stick figures and all other junk. And
I mean,
it was like fun and all that stuff. You know, like Heinz Dojo, right?
yeah.
Yeah, like them, Heinz Dojo, Stick Page, uh, and that's usually the stuff I would tend to do. I don't have anything like major. I only have like small little projects. It's like as much as I was this little ambitious child, I've only just recently know how to like actually manage time.
I can get
So
that. Managing time is
yeah,
very hard.
yeah.
Well, I was gonna ask, like, did you take any classes or stuff like that for animate for, like, for art?
Actually, no, I'm self-taught. I never
Okay,
went to any class whatsoever.
all right, that's pretty cool actually. Well then, what made you decide on animation then?
Animation.
Yeah.
What inspired me for animation was a few things, but I think the thing that inspired me the most was this arbitrary animator called Turquoise and Nazul, who I don't think either of them upload anymore, sadly enough. But they were sick animators, and I really loved their like little style and all that stuff. And I was like, man, I wonder if I can do this, and I really wanted to give it a try. And then Hayun's Dojo came along, and then that really did help me like continue doing that, and like actually put my foot in the door of actually attempting animation and actually practice. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's pretty cool. I know I've never done animation myself, but I remember back in middle school, I can't remember what we were doing. We were just doing some random shit. But at one point, it like also mind you, this class was a science class where we did this. We were doing a random thing on the computer, and then one day, one of my friends was like, "Hey, I found this cool little stick figure animation thing." He was like, "Oh, what's this?" And we just started. He just started animating like the stick figures to move around and stuff. I was like, oh, that's cool. And the teacher found it so cool that we spent maybe 2 weeks in the computer lab just doing stick animation for a science class.
Yeah, I wish I had your science class.
Oh, believe me, you don't want that science class. That teacher was weird, like real weird.
A major oof is that if I ever heard.
I mean, oof in the sense of he would drop a pencil on the ground and then tell someone to pick it up.
That gives the same energy as like somebody calling you down, like downstairs to sit there and shut the door when they're like right next to it. It's just like, all right, sure.
Well, he didn't discriminate. He did it for both girls and guys. So weird dude, weird dude. The animation thing was still weird though. I mean, it was fun though. I remember did fighting it. I know I was working on fighting animation. What sucks
Uh,
though is that I've tried the longest time to remember the studio, and even my friend doesn't remember what it was, like what the program was. And who knows, that program
uh,
probably died out a long time ago.
it was like a, let me guess, it was like a stick figure thing where you can like move the stick figure's joints and stuff.
Yeah,
It was most like a pivot.
Pivot.
Yeah.
Let me just write that down just in case. I'm gonna see if that's the same one. I might go back in that for a little bit. Not sure yet.
Shockingly, I'm not sure Pivot's still online for like download, but I do know that there's like a tons of animations out there that are still like made from Pivot. Some that I actually do like. Um, Others I don't. And then there's also just the fact that there's like other copycat stuff coming from that. Like the only one I know currently though is Stick Node.
Stick node.
Ugh. Yeah, too many Dragon Ball Z. I can't. I'm so sick of seeing Dragon Ball Z.
I mean, come on, man. You already know. You know. People have to look at the. You kept saying his name, even I know who he is. Like Doshin, dude. He does a lot.
Yeah.
He makes good. He makes good quality stuff, but you know he does that too. Yeah, I can't remember. There was one I watched up recently. I can't remember. I don't remember the guy's name, but it was a red and blue. It was not red and blue. It was yellow and a red guy fighting, and I'm like, I looked at it because I was like, Jesus, he took him. I'm not sure how long it took him to make it. It was high quality though. It was a real anime fight. I might send that to you later if you because you might know you might recognize it if you see it.
I remember just going down rabbit holes of like finding animations.
But oh, I do have one question for you. Do you have any like specific studios that you like? Studios that have worked on like different animation for shows and stuff like that, or movies.
Yeah, tons. I can easily answer that one.
Okay.
Usually my go-tos are usually either Powerhouse or Trigger, but I feel like Studio 4C also should get some love. Not 4C, 4 Degrees. Uh, should get some love because like they're the ones who did like Mind Games and Motherfuckers, which is a animation. I know the name is really weird. I thought it was weird too.
I mean,
That's literally what it's called.
there's a comic called Kick Ass, so I mean,
Yeah, to be fair, yeah. Then okay. Yeah, no, and like they just do like a lot of really good stuff. I think did they do Paprika?
mm,
I don't know. I think they might have not. I would have to look into that. But yeah, no. I really do like their animations and all for like different reasons. Trigger just gives off that awesome like energy. Powerhouse really, well, they really are a powerhouse. They do a lot of stuff, especially like on the around the internet. And you would know them from like a couple things. I mean, Castlevania. I think they
oh, they
animated.
did that.
Yeah, they did that.
Oh shit.
Castlevania. I think they did something for Epithet Erased and Owl House and stuff like that. And yeah, they're really good in that one. And those are also studios that I mean, I wouldn't want to work on Trigger, but that's something for later. Definitely Powerhouse though. Powerhouse is something I would aspire to.
Okay, I know some of my like I definitely would agree with Trigger because Trigger has made some of the best animation I've seen when it comes to certain things. Like I love
Yeah.
like I mean my first introduction to him was of course Gurren Lagann, and I was just like, God, this is really good. Because when
Trigger.
you go back from like Dragon Ball and stuff like that, and you see this animation, you're like, oh man, what the this is new.
It's funny enough, I didn't think like I knew Dragon Ball wasn't like the peak of any kind of animation when I watched it the first time. I was just like, oh, cool action scenes. But like I think no, my first experience with like actual anime because I didn't consider Dragon Ball like an anime, I guess at that time. Until well, I actually figured out what anime actually meant. Was Soul Eater, which was already like good starting point because that's made by Madhouse. No, not Madhouse. It's made by Bones. Bones, which has done, I think, Mob Psycho, uh, and currently still doing My Hero Academia, if I'm correct.
I think you're right. I can't remember if they're the ones doing it or not.
I don't know. I get Bones and Madhouse mixed up like so much because they have such similar styles when it comes to anime.
I think it's Bones only because of like the season 4 fight with Deku and Overhaul, and they used the scene that made me feel like, man, that feels very One Punch Man. And I know, and I'm pretty sure they did One Punch Man season 1 at least.
Oh yeah, no. They have done My Hero Academia. Yeah, and so I'm correct about that one.
I know the most
Oh
recent. Oh, sorry, go.
no, I was gonna sit there and say like they also done Sword of the Stranger, which was directed by Yutaka Nakamura, but that's also another story.
I know another. I know the most recent one I watched from Trigger was B and A. I think best animal, best new animal. I can't. I always forget how to pronounce it.
Brand new animal.
Brand new animal. Yeah. Like me and my friend Artemis watched that recently. We both really enjoyed it.
Brand new. I really do like Brand New Animal. Not story wise. Story wise, I can sit there and say is it's a little iffy. It's a little messy, but then again, it's Trigger. Why are their stories never messy, if not over the top?
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, no, I really do enjoy Brand New Animal for multitudes of reasons, especially for its animation. Because I really do like the visual aesthetic that Brand New Animal pretty much has. Because it's it's probably one of the most colorful anime I've seen come out this year, and that's coming from someone who like on a regular basis watch the Monogatari series. Um, with my favorite being Kizu Monogatari, which is probably one of my most favorite movie animes that I've watched. Um, Still to this day, with Second Coming being like Afro Sam.
Okay. I was gonna say because I know the newest thing Trigger is going to start working on is the Cyberpunk one.
Yeah, I actually seen that one. My friend's excited about it. I'm pretty excited about it.
Oh, me,
I'm a
my
little less excited about the situation about like how the animation would look, because knowing Trigger, that they're getting that kind of budget, I know that they're really gonna go ham.
I swear to God, there's not a single Gurren Lagann reference in that I will give this a 0 out of 10 anime because Jesus Christ, come on, just one. You're using cyberpunk characters.
Mm, that's hilarious. Gurren Lagann was like the last Gainax anime, but the first Trigger anime, because they both worked on it together.
Okay,
That was also the splitting point between them. Um, Gainax had like a whole thing going on. They're not around anymore, by the way. uh, that there's a whole situation with like the president, I think, being like a sexual deviant or like that. I have no clue, but it's
Jesus
like
Christ,
it is bad.
God.
They are gone. It sucks. But
Well,
the good thing about it is that most of them are either transferred into Trigger or they have gone to other famous studios.
okay.
So I'm not too worried about it.
I do know some other studios I think of. I don't know who the studios are specifically, but the ones I can think of would be like I'm not sure if you've watched it. I've mostly have seen like I've only seen a couple of episodes, but I've mostly have seen compilations of the animation stuff like that for. And the fight scenes was the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon.
Uh, Shockingly, that's actually a French animation industry.
Really?
Which is- yeah. The funny thing about it too, right, is a lot of people, when they refer to like really good animation, people would like go to, oh, Japan has really good animation, or like Disney does, and that's in America, and so America has good animation. It's like, yeah, but it's like, sure, they had good animation then, maybe a little bit now, but like currently the powerhouses are of course still anime within Japan,
Yeah.
but also Korean, China, and French, which is really weird because nobody really tends to think of those countries. But like when you actually like look upon what's going on, they're like there's so much there's so much good stuff that you can actually find there that just goes completely unrecognized, and it really sucks, especially like not even like just like anime, but like even like comics. Like there's a Korean comic I'm looking at called Lookism, which is like has such good art. I really do love the art, and the characters are really awesome. Um, and there's like so much knowledge about like martial arts and combat in it too, on top of like just getting a peer into like how Korean teenage life kind of goes.
Yeah.
In a way, it's still exaggerated because it is the drama, but it also does have like the action thing and a slice of life thing. So it's like a bit of a balance, and the whole gimmick of that is the fact that it's a fat kid who goes to sleep and finds out he has like a second body when he goes to sleep.
Oh,
Um,
I've seen like commercials for that. I've seen ads for that when I'm like on
yeah,
YouTube.
it's actually really good. I advise you would like look at it because it's a it's a really interesting. Um, and the best part about it is like kind of just it feels like something's like about to twist with that whole situation. Um, and it's really cool. And another thing with like Tower of God, even though Tower of God is animated in Japan, the original comic is from Korea. And
Yeah.
same for God of High School. So it's like people kind of just tend to ignore those other countries because anime has been so prevalent. But now that like there's more access to basically just looking out there, people have noticed that, oh shit, other countries have been doing really cool animation and
Yeah.
doing really cool manga and art and stuff. And yeah, I really hope that people like start to recognize this stuff.
I think they might now because of like Tower God and stuff like that. Because I know technically the only, because I'm correct in Korea they're called manhwas if I'm correct. They
Uh, I think they have their own term, but I'm not gonna get into it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've heard people call them that, but I could still be wrong. I could be pronouncing it wrong. But the first one I got into that also leads into another animation studio that I like now, and my friend told me how good they are is Mappa, and they're the ones doing God of High School.
Uh, oh, okay. So apparently not Korean comics are called manhwas,
Oh, I was right.
and so it's close, but not really.
Yeah. But no, when I saw Mappa's doing God of High School, I was like, oh, this actually. The first episode, I was like, oh, this is actually good. Oh, holy shit! Oh my god.
Mappa and are really like they're a really small like studio, and I kind of like know that in a sense because like when I first saw them, it was like this weird like I don't know what this anime was. I don't think it was like it was just a pitch, but it was like this was it them or was it somebody else that did it? Basically it was just a situation where it's like these people had these linked to like robots, these robot fists within their body. Well, it wasn't in their body. I think it was in their like shirt. Really weird. uh, and usually, in a sense, it's like kind of like a parasite, but it's robotic. So it's like you have this giant robot arm that can pretty much do all this stuff, and you're pretty much just a host. I don't remember what it was called, but it was really cool when I saw it. Uh, I'd probably have to like sit there and find it. No, that's not even Mappa at all. No, it isn't. I'm being dumb. Mappa are the ones who did Sarah's on my and Dororo. Um yeah, I don't even know how I got that mixed up. I think I'm just thinking of like something totally different. I think I'm thinking of just Clip Studio in general because that's what they use.
Yeah, maybe I'm not sure. It might be. I know what you're talking about though, because I remember seeing it on YouTube one day.
Uh, Now that I think about it, yeah, no, it wasn't. That wasn't made by Mappa. That Mappa made that other stuff that I just talked about. That anime that I was trying to describe was made by I think a small team. Uh, it was really good though. I really did like it, and the animation is really nice.
That's good. Because, what am I going to say? Because I know Mappa has just now gotten, like, Attack on Titan, and I've recently gotten to that thanks to one of my friends finally getting me to, like, get over, like, the fan base, and I was like, oh, I'll give this a shot. Finally. I was like, oh, okay, this is good. And then I
The
see,
thing,
huh?
the thing about that, right? And I know you're about to like go into like how the fan base is. Uh, a lot of people when they go into like how you know how when like a a franchise would change in animation studio, so people would be like super skeptical about something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and it was no different with Attack on Titan. When Attack on Titan transitioned from studio they had to Mappa, I don't remember the studio they had beforehand. I'm sorry. Uh, to pretty much Mappa. People were like, "Wow, this is such a serious downgrade" and stuff like that. And it's like they're the same people who've done again two of my favorite shows from them, which is the Sarah Zanmai and Dororo, especially Dororo, which has some really like cool animation. It's not, I guess in a sense, it's like flashy, but not like realistic, which some people would associate that with like being like cheap, and that like I wouldn't believe that. I wouldn't believe that in the slightest. I don't like I don't really follow that because the whole situation with that, I would basically say that Trigger is cheap and they're not. I mean, granted, when they did Kill a Kill, they didn't have much of a budget in the first place, but like they still had experienced animators, so they knew what they were doing.
Had to make it work somehow, and they did.
Yeah, they did.
I know with the Mappa doing Attack on Titan, because I saw it, I was like, oh, this looks really good. Especially for the fact now they're making it look even more like the manga now. And I was like, oh, they even made it look similar. Okay.
I really do like the art style of the manga. I really wish they followed that with like the first three seasons.
I'm gonna be honest. When it came to the manga, when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, this art doesn't look great." I mean, at least personally to me. And now, recently, when I started back up from where that season ended, I was like, "Oh, this is an improvement." And especially in recent chapters, it's like, "Oh, you just keep improving. Like
Yeah,
you've made so much
yeah,
improvements."
yeah, and also the fact that the manga kind of fits with the style that it's trying to go for.
Yeah,
Like even though it still has the anime aesthetic, there's also like this weird grittiness to it that you kind of can't get like clean animation. Um, and I really did like how that looked, even if it like was amateur. It's the same reason why I would say like, as much as I'm not a fan of like how Johto used to look earlier in the manga versus like how it looks now, I would still say it fit like what it was trying to go for.
I see what you mean. I know when it comes to I know now that animation studio, and we still needed. We'll still do this. We'll still do that. We'll still do this podcast one day. But the Beastars one has done really well because I was kind of worried when I saw her they was gonna do a 3D one. I was like, oh, this might. Oh, let's see how this turns out. And after watching it and seeing, it, it's like, oh, they did good. Oh my god.
Yeah, no, I really do like Beastars, and I do think that it was necessary to sit there and do it on 3D. The thing about 3D versus 2D animation, which I'm is that a question for you?
That's actually a question about many random animation facts like you like to share.
Well, then I could just pretty much just give this out whenever. The
Okay.
thing about the thing about 3D versus 2D animation and the pretty much Beastars put it in together. I guess somebody else described it pretty well. Anime Matt, even though he's not an animator, he did quite explain it quite well. Where first of all, when you're doing 3D animation, it's better to use that for more complex things compared to 2D animation where it's more for trying to create like a work of art in a sense. Um, when you're doing 3D, you want to communicate a message. You want to make sure that every action you're doing, not every action, of course, but like majority of what you're doing has some sort of purpose to moving the character forward within the story or where they are. Compared to 2D, where you can pretty much get away with a lot of freeze frames. Yeah, I don't think people like ever notice that. But people can really get away with a lot of still images. But to be able to continuously do that, you have to make sure that the art of said still image isn't trash. Because I've seen so many like people be like pause on like something and then look at like the background and it's like it's like the most oversimplification of the character. Of course, there's a reason for that anyways. You're not gonna sit there and draw all that detail when the character's like so far away.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's like you want to try and make sure that when you're doing 2D animation that there is a focus and there is a sense of like basically direction where 3D same way, but instead of it being the drawings themselves, it's more or less the movements and the expressions you get. And I know some people will sit there and say like 2D animation is more expressive, and I agree to an extent where it's like you can exaggerate and kind of get away with it, but it's also the fact that when you're doing 3D, it's more grounded in reality, and because so it's kind of more in a sense we kind of sympathize with it a little bit more. Um and because I never actually like I never cried over something 2D. Everything I cried over ever was like 3D. And crying being a big step because I only ever cried for over like two things before.
I get you.
But yeah, no. Basically 2D, you want to sit there and focus on beauty. 3D, you want to sit there and focus on emotion. It's basically that.
Yeah,
There's also other yeah, there's also other things that kind of go into it, but it's mainly that kind of mindset.
I can agree with that because when I looked at such as things like Beastar, I can still be like, yeah, this is fine the way it is because I can still see the emotion, the expressions characters can make.
Yeah, I'm be honest with you, there was nothing wrong with how that Beastars is currently animated. It's dumb on the other hand is something I don't want to get
Okay, it's all good.
into. um Beastars is one example, but I actually have seen many 3D animations of different kinds. Uh One that I actually still do like is what was it called? I can't even remember. God, I suck. It was a 3D animation about a kid who finds out he can't die, and he also is able to control a ghost. This sounds like a weird fan fiction of some sort, but it's like a real anime. Um, Ajin, there we go. They're basically
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I've seen that.
yeah, and at first look, when you look at the characters, like why is this 3? Why couldn't it be 2D? Um, and I was like, I probably should give this like a little bit of time to see why it's this way. And then I look into it, and you look at these ghosts that they control, and it is the most complex, overdone shit, but I love it. Because it's like I don't even know how to explain. They're like mummy Wendigo humanoid looking things with like each having their own different quirks on top of the fact that there's constant effects coming off of them. If you did all that in 2D, I bet you half of the staff would kill themselves.
In all honesty, if I'm correct, remembering this correctly, I did watch. I did watch that series. I haven't finished it though. I'm still on the season 2, but
I
I think that was my first introduction to the idea of stands before JoJo.
it was interesting. It was really interesting as I like the idea of it like because the whole appeal of it isn't the fact that oh this main character's in stake or anything. It's like no, the main character's immortal. And so are a good chunk of his friends and the people he knows. The thing that you have to actually worry about are the pretty much everyone else. And if they can like sit there and protect as many people as they can. And that's where the tense moments come. Which was a really weird but nice change of pace to have, just to not worry about the main character, but actually the environment around them. Because usually when you're watching fight scenes of things, it's like you're more worried about the character and not actually like what the they're doing. So I'm sitting there just like looking at Dragon Ball Z, they're them throwing blasts and shit that can like destroy buildings and crap. And I'm just in there like, can't like people die from that? So like having an anime that actually has that actually focuses more on like the idea of said terrorism actually having an effect on not the main character but pretty much the world around them.
Yeah.
I found to be really interesting and really cool. And it's not like I've never seen this before. I think I've seen this in Infamous. Infamous actually does this a lot because like you play a character who is extremely powerful.
Yeah.
Um but at the same time you're also the only one with like any real like moral choice. Of course everyone has support personality, whatever. It was like a PS3 game. They couldn't really do too much. But
I I did play both. I played all three of those games. Man.
yeah, I did too. I really did like the idea that you really do have to care about the environment around you if you want good karma, but if you want bad karma, you don't have to care. And I love how it emphasizes where it's like, of course, Second Son kind of messes up in a bit,
Second Son
but
really did some poor choices.
yeah. I really did like the idea that when you do good, you get good powers, and these powers also will better have better control, and even as go as far as not even affect civilians when you use it on the enemies, which I found to be really cool. But if you didn't care, then you can sit there and you could just do whatever, kill as many civilians as you want, and you get these like also really cool powers. Which the animation of said powers, as much as I don't like Second Son and how they approached it with like, the cool powers are like the bad and like you get the hero powers on the good, and it's like, I mean, yeah, but like Infamous One, you had if you did good, you still had really cool powers. As a matter of fact, some I'd argue were actually cooler
Okay,
than
quick
doing bad.
quick tangent on it on the Infamous franchise, real quick. I still think Infamous 1 and 2 are better games, and Second Son was really not good, and they really should have just went with the evil ending, or just made the choices you make better. Because what made Infamous 1 and 2 good is that the choices you make were kind of morally gray in that way, where it's like the first one, the first choice in the first game, where you get to pick like, oh, I could run all these people off and make the food for me, just us, or oh, or let other people get the food so other people can get food, like can like survive. I know we might not have as much, but at least as long other people are surviving. Like it kind of made it feel like, uh, is this the right choice or is this the right choice?
Yeah, and it made you feel like you're actually like trying to like figure things out rather than being like just pick a pick a path and just go with it.
The problem was with like fuck, what's his name? Is what's his name, Delson? If I'm correct, in Second Son.
Delson, yeah.
The problem was he already was kind of a good person, while Cole was kind of like indifferent when you first meet him, kind of just a moral great character to begin with. Because with Delson, when you see him in cutscenes that are not choices, you see him as just kind of a cool dude. He's friendly, he's nice. But when you make the bad choices, it almost like he has a multi-personality disorder. All of a sudden, I think clicks, and he's just really mean and kind of hateful towards other characters. And it's just like, you need to chill.
Man, the man just instantly becomes Virgil.
I wouldn't say Virgil. I would say more of like what?
Like a really like DSC reboot Virgil, not even like good Virgil.
I would say I would say more reboot Dante
Oh,
because
definitely.
he acts so edgy about it. Because I remember one scene where you get to I'm trying to remember what it was. It was when you first get your first new upgrade powers, like that choice. When you meet up with the character of the one with the neon powers, you're talking to her. You're like, oh, like you're trying to talk to your brother, like, hey, we shouldn't do this. And you would think with the evil choice, it would be more of you getting a little bit upfront with him about like, hey, this is my choice. I'm not gonna let this is my decision, not yours, kind of thing. No, he just kind of grabs his brother's arm and is just like, this is my choice, not yours, and just gets really angry about it, like to the point of like, is this the same character?
Yeah, so fucking. It like throws you off when you think about it. It's like the fuck.
And then the worst one was when you killed that one dude in front of his daughter as a choice. I'm like, that's kind of fucked, dude. That's Cole didn't do that. I know Cole had that choice of sacrificing doctors to save his loved one, which is a hard choice anyone in reality kind of can make, especially given how they do emphasize the relationship between the two. But in this one, it's like, oh no, I'm gonna kill you in front of your daughter and let her see me do it. While Cole was like doing this, no one saw that he didn't save the doctors. Only person who knew about it was just the girl who died. But still, it was like, oh, that's kind of, that's nasty. And then his evil ending was just awful. It was like, oh, this is not the same character at all. Cause did you see the evil ending?
I see both. Because I was gonna sit there and say, I remember I played through that game once, and then something corrupted on the save file, so I had to redo everything.
Oh God.
What made it worse is that I didn't want to do any of the evil stuff. I wanted the good powers because I want to see how good they were. Spoiler alert, like only one of them are good.
Okay,
and that's and that's from the video one. Other than that, no.
okay, we're gonna have a
Uh,
disagreement about that one, but keep going your thing.
uh, but like I remember sitting there losing all that data, and that was when I was sitting there doing like the paper trail data too. So like I
Oh.
was really far in the game, and then next thing you know,
Boop, boop, boop. Sorry, folks. It was like he just got a call real quick. He'll be right back in a second.
my bad.
Oh, he's back.
Yeah, I remember I lost every, and I had to
Uh,
redo everything. And I was like, you know something, I don't even want to redo the paper trail. It's not like I'm gonna get a power out of it. It would have been cool if I did though.
you did,
But
if I'm correct.
uh, from the paper trail, I don't think you do.
Yeah, if I'm correct, you got a power to control paper or turn into paper or some shit like that.
Some odd shit. All right.
But jeez.
Thing I do, I will always sit there and commend about that game is that, and of course, going on back on topic, the battle animation is of course the animation. I really love it. It's really over the top. The special effects are like on point and
Oh
just
yeah.
like so bright and colorful, and like it just each power does actually fit like where it's supposed to what it's supposed to do. Like my favorite, I don't even know why this is my favorite, but I really like the whole when he goes in the smoke form near a vent and he'll go up and then he'll like shoot out of it.
Oh yeah.
Like that is probably one of my more favorite things because it's like his body transforms and converts into the smoke, and then you can literally either go into the vent and go onto the roof, or if you're already on the roof, you can go near the vent and like literally just get like a bounce if you need one. And I thought that was really cool. Um, and how it looks is really cool, and I just it's just really visually beautiful to look at.
It's just I would just have to say if they had to go back and do this like Infamous games again, I kind of would be okay if they decided to be like, hey, we're gonna do a full ground remake of one, and just at least with the new animation style they use from Second Son, because I just like to see what that looks like what Cole would look like using his powers in that format.
Yeah, it would be nice. It would be really cool. Too bad I think they probably book the series.
Maybe. I mean, they probably might have realized people didn't like Second Son. Some people didn't like Second Son. Maybe we shouldn't, because like I said, that ending like obviously if they did another one, it's gonna have to be the good ending because Second Son's ending felt like an edgy high school ending, like some edgy high schooler wrote a fan fiction.
Dear Lord, yeah,
Because
he did.
he just kills his whole people because they're like, hey, you did all this fucked up shit. That's not cool. You're not part of our group anymore. All right, cool. I'm just gonna kill my whole native family here. All right, like that's that's the ending you chose. You could have went with anything else. Because even Cole didn't do all. Okay, well, Cole's ending in two was legit. He turned into the villain, but at the same time, it was one of those times where it's like he's a villain, but he's doing it for good reasons.
Basically a villain with good intention.
Yeah, he's like kill other people to save others kind of thing. Well, Delson was just like, oh, you're just kind of a douchebag. But no, when it comes to like the powers of, I know you said video was the best one. I think Neon was the best one because it looked beautiful and and I found it to be faster. Because in but the only reason why video kind of was bad for me was just because the guy who had it made it cooler, and then you're like, oh, this kind of trash. I can't turn into a giant armor dude.
It's so bad. I don't always believe that a villain should be like should have like good intentions always to be a good villain. I think it should fit the story.
Yeah.
It made sense with Cole for him to have this morally gray like situation where it's like it was understandable upon why he became a villain because what he thinks he's doing is good. It's just that it's not good for everyone else.
Yes.
Um, where comparatively, if you was to sit there and do that to like Dragon Ball, you would make it worse.
Oh yes.
Like I loved Frieza for the fact of how utterly relentlessly brutal he is, and the fact that because of that, it made the payoff of Goku beating him so much better.
He just kicked his
Basically,
ass. He kicked his
yeah.
ass hard because he was just a piece of shit. Like Frieza was just like, I just do what I want. And he's just like, oh man, he's just
Shit. Not to mention he has like this weird villain charisma, which is like not all villains tend to have, where it's like you can be as evil as you want, but like people still somehow like you in some way.
he pretty much was the villain that's like you're supposed to hate him, and that's usually pretty good in that way because you like him because you're like I hate Frieza because he's such a good villain. Like everything he does is just awful, and just like he was just a tyrant from beginning to end.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay, but let's go back to like tangents over that. Let's go back to the like other questions. But I had one of mine was I know we were just talking about studios. Do you have any? Wait, actually, never mind. That's a question for another section. But I know you said projects and stuff like that. Do you have any? Have you been working on any long term or personal projects when it comes to animation?
Currently, I actually am working on one. I don't want to. I mean, I'd fully disclose it in Discord, but I mean, I don't mind talking about it here. It's not like, I mean, it's major, but not too major. I also still have to probably get permission to see if I can actually use it, but I wanted to sit there and do a fan animated music video of a particular song for Wrath called "You Fuckers for Asking for This."
Okay.
Uh, you fuckers for asking for this one, yeah. And because it was always on my mind, I was like, you know something, it would be really good starting 90-minute, not 90 second. Jesus Christ, I made a mistake before. 90-second project to sit there and do, starting out small and then like growing like smaller and smaller until I can like do more significant projects. Um, and I really don't think that this is like an over ambitious thing to do. Like not in the slightest. Like 90 seconds for like animation. That's what, like 2,300 frames, just about. Uh, sometimes not even. Sometimes it's like a little less than that. Um, there's a little more. It depends on the frame rate, honestly. I use 24, so it's like 2,300. Which isn't
Jesus.
bad.
I mean, this
Uh,
sounds well. I'm like, I'm not animated, so it sounds like big and huge to me.
it's like only what 90 seconds. Granted, it will still take me like months, but aside from that, like it's not like something like 5 minutes, which 5 minutes would sit there and be like I think it's over like 10K frames, which is crazy, like how people can sit there and like do all that. Um just for 5 minute animation. Of course they have their own tricks and stuff that they probably like either learned from their own personal experience or like school or something like that. But it's like if you are just starting off, it is advised that you start off small with like 60 to like 90-second animation projects, and then like like grow like small with like small baby steps basically. Like you can do 60 this with this project, and then you can move up to 90, and then you can move up to maybe like 100, and then like 110, like et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was probably one of my biggest mistakes was trying to pretty much overdo it, trying to be over ambitious, only to sit there and just like only to have like a stab in the gut being like I can't do all this, and then I have to throw away the project.
Oh,
um if I was to sit there and do, and I kind of learned my lesson to the point where if I was to sit there and do a project that isn't quite long and seems like it would require me to have more than one animator, then I would sit there and hire more than one animator because I don't think it's worth all the stress to try and go out of my way to make this crazy, incredible masterpiece when you really don't need to, especially if it's like you're still like an amateur. Um, and that's something I've also seen someone else try to do because I've seen someone else who was really talented. They was really good at like character art and character animation. They was good at backgrounds and concept designs. They were just basically there was a jack of all trades. But the thing about being a jack of all trades is that you're also a master of none, which means that everything is balanced, but not everything is going to be exceeding expectation. And they tried to do this crazy, like over ambitious project. Um, and they winded up sitting there quitting because it was getting to them. And uh, it's one thing that I've noticed with other like younger animators, especially again me, is doing too much, being over ambitious, and then only to sit there and just quit it altogether. Not animation, just the animation you're doing. Um, and it's you have to just start small. The animation I'm doing, of course, is relatively small. The simple basic idea is the fact that it's just going to be testing dynamic posing and dynamic posing perspective and transitional shots. Basically, how can I transition one thing to another and then to another? Basically, what you do for like any kind of music video. and it's relatively easy. That's not hard in the slightest. It's not like trying to sit there and tell an entire story. It's just you're following what the music is saying, and you're just finding out how you can put that into animation. As simple as that. And
Okay.
it's a good, yeah, I feel like if people really do want to start on something, start on like a short song, like a short, maybe 30 seconds, 90 seconds song, and just, go from there.
How long have you been working on it and stuff like that? Like, have this been going on for at least a year or so since you've been working on this?
I've actually, funny enough, I started doing this like I think 2 days ago.
Oh,
So I'm like still like doing it because beforehand I was just doing little practices and stuff like that, and for that I was doing cleanup practice. Uh, and I also gotten a job as of recently,
okay.
so I've been doing like a lot of work, so I haven't been having too much time for that. But of course, I only work for like 3 days a week, so I have plenty of time now. But beforehand, I didn't because I had like school, probably like that other stuff.
Okay.
But now that I graduated, I'm out of high school. I'm an adult now. uh,
Welcome to adult
I
life,
have
man.
yeah, I have a lot more time on my hands and a lot more freedom actually. And so like with like kind of both, I'm trying to take advantage of it. I really am because I don't want to sit there and look at myself and be like, man, I totally had enough time to sit there and be able to do this and that third. I don't want to regret anything. I really don't.
Yeah. Uh, I did have another question. What was like the first real animation you've actually done?
Actual animation doing again. I One of my biggest problems trying to be too overly ambitious. So I never been able to actually finish anything, and I'm only just now recently actually taking time to sit there and do this stuff.
Oh, okay.
Um, but I guess if I was to sit there and describe something of an accomplishment, I guess the accomplishment I have is the fact that I'm actually practicing consistently.
I get that.
Aside, because I haven't done anything that was major. Most of the projects I have were like very minor, and again, it's good to start on like minor stuff. Uh, you just test the waters of what you like need to work out and what you do know and what you want to strengthen. Uh, Hopefully by the next few months, I'll give myself maybe like 4 or 5 because it does take a while. That I'll probably at the very least have like the ink process of the animation, like not done, but like at least be on there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And if I get it done beforehand, then cool. If I get it done after, but I feel like I'm close, then I'll continue until I'm actually done.
Okay.
Um, Basically giving myself in a sense, a time limit, but not one that'll sit there and be like, if I don't do it this time limit, I'll sit there and quit animation. No, it's like if I don't do it on this time limit, I'm going to have to like up my game basically.
Okay. So you mean like you ways to motivate yourself?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get that. That's really good. That's a good way of doing it, man.
Hmm.
I did have one. I do have one. It's a what if question for you. Let's say some random like let's say you keep this up, you do it like you do your animation comes out great, and then some studio calls you to come work for them. Like they see it, they're like, oh, this guy's really good. Let's come ask him. Like, what studio would you like to work for? Like if they asked you to come work with them, and it could be anyone, like the French one, American one, Japanese one, no discrimination.
Uh, if I'm to be honest with you, uh, despite that me having like quite a bit of like animation inspiration, I don't think I want to work in like a major company. Uh, I mean, granted, I would love to work at Powerhouse. That's one thing, but what's one that I also know that has quite a bit? It was a different studio. It was a free. It's a freelance studio, and I don't even remember. um, Studio Yada. There we go. Studio Yada. Um, who are a very small animation. Well, they're not very small, but they're small but recognizable. Especially more or less around the internet, also such as Powerhouse. But they're the same people who have done Sonic Mania's opening, uh, which was also helped in the animation by Tyson Pease. Um, OK KO, and that one Rick and Morty music video that honestly I really loved. Um, they've done like a lot of other stuff, but their whole entire situation, their whole entire thing is that it's just a collection of freelance animators kind of all put into like this one particular studio because like their styles are very, in a sense, they're very specific. So because so it's like it's a studio that basically gives you that like leg room to like and like that help to try and find work in like this particular style that you usually wouldn't find in most like studios. Like they've also have worked on other things such as a lot of things for Starbomb album, uh which was, I really love those. Those I think are really cool. And they have like a very specific Newground style in a way. That I do think is really underappreciated style that not a lot of people sit there and about.
I know when you said Yada, it did sound familiar to me. I didn't know what they worked on, but it did sound familiar. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
they did Starbomb album. They did majority of the Starbomb animated album. And they also did the, again, Sonic Mania opening. Rivals of Ether, they tend to do that on a regular basis. Um, Shockingly, I didn't even know they did Lab Zero until recently. They did help with Invisible, I believe. So yeah, it's really neat. I would love to like work at a place like that because I would think with just like just having the idea of like having that help to find jobs or basically find work of some sort is r- something that I really would love to have. So I can focus on like actually doing the work, and then like the person who like has to deal with like the social media and all the junk can deal with that. But
Okay.
then again, I don't mind going on social media on my own and sitting there promoting myself.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to promote yourself, man. Let people know who you
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
I had something to say. Now I can't remember what it was. Oh, now I remember. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the people on that team are from Newgrounds because I know. Remember you said like sort of Newgrounds animation, and like I wouldn't be surprised because Newgrounds kind of, from what I remember and from what I've been told, is like the origins of like a lot of animators.
Oh yeah, 100%. It is the origin of so many. And some of them kind of just, I don't think they kind of stopped doing animation. I think they just do like other animations for like other people, and then like they kind of just do their own thing currently on YouTube. Like Uni plays. I thought he like stopped doing animation, but then I realized he doesn't. He didn't. I think he does it for like a team now. I can't remember. Was it Flash Kids? Uh, I don't know. Trying to figure that out. Uh,
Uh,
but yeah, Eager Raptor, I know he did kind of stop. He only does that stuff occasionally. Sucks.
I
But
know
then
you.
again, I don't really watch Game Grumps, so it's not like I really give a shit.
Yeah, you're all good. You're not missing much.
uh, who else? Oh, Draw with Jazza. He currently is doing really successful on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I'm subscribed to him.
Yeah, he still does animation. It's just not that often. He spends a lot more time sitting there to make videos, which is fine. I still watch. Um, yeah, basically, it's just most people on new ground tend to like find a lot more like success in like just basically entertainment in general, which is weird, but I guess.
I don't know. Like Newgrounds kind of just was the birthing place of a lot of people.
Yeah, it really was.
I mean, I'm even surprised they still do like how there's still like animators. Oh, I shouldn't be surprised, but it's still great to see that it's still like people doing animation. Like how every once in a while you'll see one of those animation collabs of like something random being
Oh yeah,
done.
yeah, I've seen one with the Smash opening, I believe. It
Was
was really it was really cool. I loved it.
I think one I
uh,
saw was like they did a Kirby one, like the Kirby first episode or one
Another
of the
one I
episodes.
believe, yeah, another one I believe was steamed hams. Holy shit! I don't even think that was on Newgrounds. I think that was just YouTube. But it was. I love that one too because it's like it's a meme, but it winded up just getting like all these people together to basically do this like silly animation for this one particular meme. It was really funny. I loved it. Uh, and I still watch it to this day.
I'm still not
I think
sure. Oh,
oh, I'm sorry. What were you gonna say?
I was was gonna say I'm not sure who it will. I'm not sure if it's on Newgrounds first or YouTube. I know one of the ones I saw was a. I'm not sure if it's still up or not. They did like I think the whole Shrek movie animation collab.
Dude, Jesus Christ.
And the only reason why I knew about that was because they got I'm not sure if you know him, Christian Sonic Chew to do a part, so that's the only reason why I even know about that.
Oh, that's great. Uh, yeah, I don't think I remember anything like that. I I would if I ever saw it. I know I would like always remember that. Because I still to this day remember I still to this day remember a team of like amateur animators have like redid an entire episode of like Sonic X. It's like what the freak?
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that.
Yeah, it was to like varying degrees of like quality, but I didn't really care about the quality. I just love like they all put in that effort. And it was like it was I don't know, it was oddly nostalgic because I haven't seen Sonic X in a while and seeing all these like animators who also like have like these in a sense a nostalgic like backing to like this show because they wouldn't do it if they didn't know what it was and like had any sort of connection to it. So it's like just seeing like these animators do all these things and like having this nostalgic backing of what they're doing. Like watching it, I was just filled with so much joy. I almost cried. The thing is, I don't cry normally from like sad things or anything. I think I cry more over nostalgia than I do anything else. I think I've only ever cried over one sad thing, but that's another story. That's more of like a story I would like tell you like if we were just talking like without like if stream going on right now. So basically it would just be because it's like I mean I wouldn't say it's embarrassing. I've already talked about it, but like it was really weird.
It's okay if you don't want to talk about it. You don't have to, man. But that's one of those things I do like is how they still do collabs and stuff like that. Because I know there's like the animation ones of different shows or movies, and then there's also the music videos as well that they do collabs for.
Yeah. Uh
I think those are called. I think those are called maps as well. I think
MAP.
MAPE or
It's just map. But my dumb brain doesn't know what a map is aside from like the Twitter variation, which I
we
don't
don't
want to
we don't talk about the Twitter
get
variation.
started
We don't
on.
talk about the Twitter variation.
And it sucks because it's now whenever I try to like search up like the actual like the music collab maps, I like sometimes get the really fun shit. So I'm just like, all right.
That has been ruined, sadly, and even the animation community hates that to death. And I can't blame them for why that happened.
The animation community hates it. LGBTQ community hates them. Uh, it's just a lot. It's a lot going on.
But oh, with that one, then here's another one. Oh, least fit like. I know we've been talking about like some of our favorite animations and stuff like that. What's some of your least favorite like type of animations you've seen?
What's funny enough is it fine if I also talk about like my least favorite types of people who talk about animation too?
Well, that goes into another question for like.
All right, all right. My le- though okay, so my least favorite kinds of animation. I wouldn't. It would be easy to sit there and say YouTube or like the meme animations, but like uh, again, that's easy.
Yeah.
If I was to answer it full-heartedly without going into going into any real any real I don't know. I actually don't know honestly, because aside from again the memes and the oh dear lord, fuck hmm
Like, it doesn't even have
I
to
don't
be
know.
like a type of genre. It could just be like, oh, I didn't like this animation studio and how they're doing it with this. Because I know examples I've had was the current season of Seven Deadly Sins, how that has not been doing too hot, or
Seven Deadly Sins is just a joke.
and of the last couple of years is the Berserk when that came out, and how someone just took a scene and then went to Photoshop and did the same thing over, and I was just like, oh, that walk animation was like it was just done in Photoshop, and someone proved that it kind of looked like it was.
Yeah, no, again, those would be like way too easy. But I mean, no, it is true. Those I do hate those. I guess another kind of animation I hate, or at least don't like, is, and this is very oddly specific. Um, I don't like animation that doesn't have like a recoil or a bounce back of any. Even if it's like a small bounce back, I would enjoy a lot. But I'm talking about like it goes from one motion to the other, ease in, ease out, and then there's no real sense of like actual general movement, and there's no energy to why it is like that. Like it's one thing if it's like comedic and it's like they're sitting there doing this robotic thing because that's their character trait on top of the fact that it's like adding comedy, and it's another thing if it's like you're just moving things from one thing to another and then to another and to another, and it's like I absolutely hate that.
Okay.
It feels bland, it feels stale, and it feels like you generally do not know how physics work. And you do not need much knowledge to understand that when you do an action, you're gonna have some sort of recoil to it. You're gonna have some sort of bounce to it. They're gonna have an arc always. I hate that too. I hate when animations don't have some sort of arc that's reasonable. Granted, it makes some things I guess make sense, but that would it's very specific. Like if you're making a machine, like if you're making a machine, it makes sense because it's like machines are supposed to be a one point to another type of thing. But if you're animating a person, make them feel like they're actually abiding by some laws of physics, basically.
Yeah, I see what you mean with that. I know people do like this, and I know there are people who do like the animation I'm about to say, but one animation I didn't care for was, I'm not sure if you remember seeing it or not. Back when Naruto Shippuden was on and they did the Naruto versus Pain fight, the Six Tails one, and I was just like, because I know one of the jokes is like, oh, a lot of that's pause. I'm like, some of that is not pause, and even I have to admit that some of that animation just looks, I don't know, too fluid. If that makes sense. If
Uh, Funny enough, right? The same person who did same person who did the Naruto versus Pain fight is the same person who did the episode 4 of Gurren Lagann.
I'm at
If
the
you
look,
didn't know.
I might have to look that back up because I'm not sure if I remember that or not.
Let's see. Hold on. It was King versus Naruto. Um, shit. Art and Shingo Yamashita. And if I was to look up that name, she's gonna have to. And if I was to sit there and look it up, I would sit there and yep, Gurren Lagann. He did the K animation. I got, I got one thing wrong. He did the key animation for episode 14, not 4.
Okay.
uh, but yeah, basically, it's generally the same style. He's done actually quite a few things actually.
I know
Uh,
he did. I know back when. I know in part one of Naruto, he did parts of the Naruto Sasuke fight. I could recognize the style of it, and I have to admit that time he did it, it looked fine to me. I like what he was doing. It's just for some reason when he came to the Naruto pain, I'm just like I don't know what it was. It's just like it just didn't vibe with me.
uh, his whole style is just this slight distortion, but he does understand how to draw.
Yeah.
Um, like it's not even the fact that like he's bad at what he does. He's not in the slightest.
Oh
Especially
yeah.
like look onto his Twitter right about now. Like he's an absolute fucking mess. When it comes to like just drawing and animation in general. He's even holy shit, has he actually worked on this? Okay, yeah. So he did do Fascinating Days also, which was like a short animation that has like 3 different episodes. Um so is he is around quite a bit and he he is really good. So it's like it's just like sometimes animators tend to have those kind of slip ups, but the thing about me is that I'm very open when it comes to a lot of things, and I didn't hate the Naruto versus fight. Uh, if anything, it was actually probably one of the few fights that I feel like are quite underrated, especially for like the actual emotion it was trying to convey. Um, because and the thing is, I don't watch Naruto. I don't like Naruto,
Yeah.
but when it comes to knowing the lore and knowing what's going on in the story. I don't watch the series, but I do I do go through occasionally the fight scenes. I like how they look, and I also do watch some of the quote unquote story explanation because I'm sitting there trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
uh, and one of the biggest things I feel like matters is again is if it fits the moment, and I feel like the reason why I don't have a problem with the Pain versus Naruto fight is because it fits the moment of basically Pain's pain and all that stuff. But mainly, one of the biggest things that I kind of got out of that was the fact that there's so much overwhelming emotion and energy that they cannot contain it, even in the fabric of their own universe in a sense. Like there's so much going on because like there's Naruto sitting there going through his the Nine Tails thing, and then like Pain is sitting there like going like crazy and like sitting there talking about how much pain he's in and how and like also how like they're both infuriated with each other, but also like Naruto sitting there still like in a sense trying to understand what's going on. But at the same time, he's also like way too enraged to like try and figure that out entirely. It's just like in a sense is like the animation kind of conveys that sense of like confusion in a sense in a way, and also just overwhelming emotion. And I feel like that's also why a lot of things are like either overdone or like highly misplaced and like don't you just don't know what's going on too much because it's like they don't know what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's just how I feel about the fight scene. That's just me though. That's how I interpret it. Um, it's a very weird, I guess, pretentious way of interpreting it, but I'm not forcing that on other people. If they don't like it, they don't like it. But if that's just how I think about it. I think it fits the moment, and I think it's pretty nice.
I see. I can get what you mean. I don't think it's pretentious. It's like just yeah. It's like feelings that you see as you're watching it.
Yeah.
Well, I do know you kind of said it, but we can just get into that other part of the other question then about the whole. Because my question for you was, have you had any debates or issues with people over animation?
Hmm. Have I? No, not really. Generally, I tend to be silent, especially when because I do have other animators I do talk to who actually like go into the field and stuff like that.
Yeah.
One who actually does work in Powerhouse, but because of NDA, they can't really disclose what they're working
Yeah.
on. um, and I usually tend to just sit back whenever like they start explaining things and just take in basically the knowledge that they're giving. And it really is a joy to sit there and just like look through how they analyze things and just their thought process. And it really does help into like sitting there making me question not just my own, but like how I should approach things and like how I should think about things. And sorry, I had to get water.
Yeah. Good.
Uh, and then yeah, basically just learn something basically new. I don't think I've ever debated against someone when it comes to animation, mainly because there's not much really to debate. I think I've only ever actually debated about one thing. I don't remember what the anime was, but whenever like the characters move, it was always so fluid, and it was always like really good and like well done. But I also had a problem with it, and I think it was either Giguk or Digi no, it was Giguk. Where he like no, it wasn't Giga, it was Digibro. Digibro who sat there and had a video where it was like, and I still can't remember the anime name, but it was like somebody said the unpopular opinion about like uh something about over animating, and that is a problem. And over animating is a problem, but like what they said was like, I don't feel like over animating is a thing. Clearly, they had a bigger budget and they had like much better workers and all that stuff, and they just put all that time and effort into making the animation look like this. I feel like it was good. And then he said, over animating is not necessarily a good thing because then you're driving the focus away from things that are actually important. And I agreed with him on that because when you're doing an animation, especially if it's because I think it was a slice of life. If you're doing a slice of life, you don't want to constantly make everything like super presentable. Yeah, you want to make sure that you still have the fundamental stuff in there, but you don't want to sit here and pretty much overdo everything to the point where the actual moments that are actually like emotional aren't there because everything is animated well and you don't know how to feel about any of them because there's no real visual representation to show that you're supposed to feel some type of way.
It's kind of like how they kind of say when it comes to like making characters and stuff like that. If you're gonna add a lot of detail, remember to have rough sheets of that.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna add this one particular thing on there, make sure you remember it's there because people will notice if it's not there on another scene or like I know one example I will use when it comes to animation and like being off model at times was probably Steven Universe because a lot of that like first couple like I think the first two seasons they were pretty on model when it came to a lot of things, but as the series went on, people noticed like, hey, why are some of these characters off model now? Like there's times where a character's shorter, like one character in particular, they noticed they kept shrinking her every single episode. They're what's up with the height?
Yeah, I noticed that. It was really fucking stupid. um, what else I'm sitting here thinking about? Yeah, no, they actually did have model sheets for season 1 and 2. and I don't know what they did with them because it's like when they had those model sheets, they actually had the character turnarounds and like I think they had some sort of measurements too at that. So it's like you would understand you would understand like where characters stand, basically, no pun intended. Uh, but I don't know, something happened and just like I don't think any of them follow anything anymore.
I feel like they like I didn't watch much of this Future, but I'm not. They might have done better on that one because, like I said, when it came to
Future,
um,
yeah, they were more consistent with Future. I feel like okay then, Jesus Christ. Future, I do feel like did improve on that problem, and also feel like fuck, think I'm losing my train of thought. uh, they were probably hiring like new animators. I think it was most likely the situation. Because usually an experienced animator would sit there, and if they like started noticing like certain things missing, they would like kind of point it out in a sense. Um, Especially if it's like model sheets, because like animators, it depends on the animate what type of animation, but that's like a whole different situation because like each country kind of does animation in like not each country, but like each company does animation in like different ways.
yeah,
I know the ones in Steven Universe are in-house entirely. Like they don't do like the keyframes and then ship it to like a arbitrary animation company out in like Asia.
I thought they
So
did. 'Cause I remember hearing people say they did do that. At least maybe later seasons, maybe.
think probably. Probably why the stuff isn't even consistent actually now I think about it.
Because I remember hearing people say they did do that. Like they did send it off to other like I think it was either somewhere in China or it might have been Korea.
Oh, wait.
Because like I remember seeing someone compare two of the characters, like the character Kane from her first few seasons, where she looks pretty tall, she looks like the age she should be, and then the other scenes where it's like, oh, what happened? You look like a munchkin now. What the fuck is this? Like, what happened to you? Like just all of a sudden the model just changed, and there was no real kind of explanation. Just people kind of just went with it, and I kind of do hate the fact that like when people kind of say these are off model, and they do say that the criticism there's still those people are like, oh, that shouldn't count as a criticism. I'm like, who cares if it's off model? I'm like, hey, it kind to me it matters that these characters should be on model because what's the point of having ref sheets and everything if you're not going to stay on model and have even then to make it show as consistent so people know, yeah, this is this character's height, this is this character's measurement, such and such.
Excuse me. What's funny is that it's not even the animator's job itself to sit there and actually know what is and isn't on model. It's actually the supervisors. So the criticism doesn't even go to the animators. It's supposed to go to the supervisors.
Oh well.
Yeah, because they're the ones who sits there and actually manages the art style.
Well, supervisors aren't doing their job apparently. Uh, but I do remember you did say something beforehand about when we started the whole like least favorite animation. Like I think you said something about like people and that fact.
Yeah.
Like,
Uh,
yeah, I was gonna ask if we go into detail about that one.
uh, there are types of people that I just don't like when we start talking about animation, and those types of people the are the overly pretentious ones, or the people who just are just fucking stupid, to put it pretty much bluntly. Um,
Understandable.
so to go with the first one, the over pretentious is the whole reason why I don't watch Digibro anymore. Is because he just I don't know, there's something about him that just has this weird condescending and pretentious like sound to it where he tries to make everything sound like there's like some sort of purpose behind it when in reality not everything's gonna have a purpose. not everything's gonna have like some well thought out plan of like trying to change something. Like he tried to, I think, yeah, he was the one who tried to justify like Ghost in the Shell's look in animation.
The new
Um,
one?
yeah.
What? That animation's garbage. I'm sorry. Oh
And
my
it's just like,
god.
oh my god,
Like the
so
backflipping dude, like, oh my Jesus.
yeah, but he like tried to make it sound like with this new 3D animation, they were trying to go probably Ghost in, they're trying to go for this newest softer look, and with this like 3D, it's like, look, please stop. It's just bad, right? I've seen actually good 3D animation that has tried to do this style. And a matter of fact, I've seen stuff that come from the 2000s that did this shit better. Literally Code Lyoko, bro.
Kolyoku, I'm not sure if you watched it. This might be too old for even for you in this sense. Reboot was one. It was a Canadian show that was like 3D
No,
animation.
I've heard of it. I never actually watched it though, sadly enough.
I recommend
Uh,
that's high quality, crazy video game shenanigans. But I would do like him saying that. I'm like, did you watch? I'm like, dude, did you watch Beastars then, my dude? Because that's 3D animation. That looks great. Ghost in the Shell. That's I don't know what that is. That just looks bad.
so bad, yeah. And just you can't justify that. They're just being cheap. That's just how that is. It clearly is because I've seen good 3D animation, and I especially have seen good 3D animation that has tried to imitate like 2D um and it like it really it sometimes it comes out really nicely and sometimes it comes out like why the fuck are you trying to do this?
Like, I don't know, man. It's weird to even see people try to defend the animation because I'm like, it's just because I haven't watched the show itself. It's just the animation just keeping me away from it. I'm like, oh, this looks ooh. Well, then again, the animation, and then when I learned the one of the main villains is the self insert of the director, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, I've always said this, and I'll keep on saying this. I don't have a problem with somebody having their character as self-insert. Um, I mean, their self-insert as a character. Just make sure you actually write it as a character and not just like
Not you.
you living out some sort of power fantasy. I hate that. It's like I hate that so much.
It
Uh,
looks.
um, hell, what the fuck happened? It was like Neil Druckmann.
Oh
He's
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. This you talk about the sex scene. Oh,
yeah. It just starts having I don't even want to sit there and say that because it's not hot. It's not. It's not in the
well, it
slightest.
got memed up to hell.
It got memed to fucking grave. Uh, uh what's funny is like I wouldn't mind that being a thing if I didn't have to see it.
Here's the thing about self inserts. There's two different types of self inserts, and that when it comes to the gaming part of that, when I think of self insert, that's like it's just there, whatever. I think of what's his name, the guy who made Heavy Rain and stuff like that. I can't remember his name. You know what I'm talking about? Like Heavy Rain, he did the site like he does self inserts, but they're usually just kind of at the beginning, or they're just kind of there and they don't do anything to the
Yeah, they're not
story.
like crazy major character.
Like it's, I mean, usually it's just him. It's him just talking to the audience.
What I find, yeah, there's a lot of self-inserts that are basically just like that, where it's like they're just in the story, either to be basically as the god because they are the god of the story, but like they're jokingly the god because they create the story, so they might as well just make it more comedic. Chowder did that.
Oh yeah,
um, or you can just sit there and have it as pretty much as a reference, like I know the creator of Invader Zim basically he did that, where he just put his character like himself in the background of things.
I
Like
didn't
he
know that.
wasn't engaged. Yeah, no, he wasn't engaged at all with like the story or anything. He was just in the background. He was just like a normal citizen. And then there was Hideo Kojima, who literally made himself into an entire soldier.
A soldier and then a hologram to talk to you, and then, like I said, it doesn't
uh,
affect the story, so it's just like, oh yeah, whatever.
what was it? Conan? Conan being in Death Stranding. I actually didn't even have a problem with that. I actually like that. It was actually quite funny.
Like, even then, you can miss these. You can miss them. Like those two, you can miss them and not even have to even interact with them at all because they're just
Yeah.
side stuff.
And then there's characters who are important to the story that are self-inserts, I believe, that are much harder to do. Because I feel like if you're going to do that, you might as well just give them an entirely new name and look and just take references of your own personality instead of just sitting there just straight up putting yourself.
Yeah, that's what
Uh,
I've done with like my own, like one of my characters I've made. It's like based him off of like my looks and everything, but he's completely different, personality wise and everything.
yeah, a famous example of that, and shockingly, I'm, of course, I'm not sure if it's completely true, but I'm still gonna say it anyways. But Luke Skywalker, do.
Oh yeah, wasn't it
To be
like?
fair, it would make sense, honestly, though.
Yeah, I remember that's always been a thing people have talked about, and no one. I'm not sure if it's ever actually been confirmed by him or not.
Uh, Probably isn't. He'd probably sit there and if he, if it was true, but he like probably thought about like admitting it, he probably would get like fucking bombarded or some shit because of the recent shit today.
I mean, here's the thing. I'm like, dude, you're rich at this point. And also, I think even he has shitted on the Star Wars stuff recently. So I'm like, so it'd just be another added pile on for him if he admitted to it. And even then, he's not Luke, and Luke is the different character.
Yeah, he just like, I don't know his personality, but he seems like he probably took reference from his own personality and just put it into a character.
Yeah. But yeah, when it came to Neil Druckmann self-insert in the video game, it was like, oh, this is, we didn't have to see this. No one had to see this. No one, sir. And then he did it twice. He did it twice, though. Because I'm not sure if you heard about the one where they found a card of his character, of his OC character of himself, and has like high stats. And I'm like, God, suck your own dick some more, sir.
And then he has the audacity to sit there and feel bad. Like, you ruined a really. I wouldn't say, okay, I wouldn't really say you completely ruined that. You really did disappoint people. Because if anything, and I know this is going to be like a kind of controversial in a way, but of course I don't like The Last of Us 2, but I don't hate it. I think it's okay.
Yeah.
I think it would have been better if it was its own thing, rather than it being a sequel to a really well loved and critically marketable and consumer high rated thing. Like it is a. I do like The Last of Us the original. People can sit there and be like, it wasn't really that good or anything. And it's like, yeah, sure, but you cannot deny the success that the original had and the actual real connection that people had to this game.
Yeah.
You cannot deny it. So you cannot like it. You can sit there and say it wasn't that good, but its success still came. I would sit there and say to other people uh, the same thing. Oh, but like The Last of Us 2 is like had a lot of sales and all that stuff, and it's like, and just because it dropped 80% doesn't mean jack all. Because Uncharted 4 dropped 80%, and it's still the highest selling game. It's like, yeah, but the problem with that is people kind of like Uncharted 4 at least for like some of the other things. People who buy like The Last of Us usually still hate it, even if it does well marketably. Also, it's a situation where it's like, just because you're getting a lot of sales doesn't mean your game is good. It doesn't mean that in the fucking stuff.
That wouldn't they go for like I'm not sure if didn't I think like don't quote me on this, but didn't Sunrise 6 have good sales, but the game itself, but we all know the game itself was bad.
There's tons of like stuff like that. And then there's just like the opposite effect where it's like there's tons of like really undersold sold games that are just like really good. Especially indie titles. Like they don't really get a lot of recognition unless it's like at a chance usually because they don't have money for like crazy ass marketing that these big AAAs do.
Yeah.
So it's like they kind of have to deal with like that where like the AAA games can sit there and just sell a lot because it's like, oh, we can just spread it and like because we already have this like following, we can give it to them and then like they can recommend it to their friends and then, even if they like don't like it because like their friends know it or at least something that they or a friend of their friends know it, then they'll sit there and to others and then spread the others and blah 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 and then they'll also like constantly give you marketing and like make you try and like think this game is like really cool and all that stuff. It's like they really will go over the top for like the craziest shit for like the dumbest games comparatively to like indie titles, which is like talks about the game and then just like says you can buy it or
Yeah.
don't. Because it's like they don't have the marketing to sit there and shove it down your throat.
The only time they can get marketing is if a company or a publisher like, hey, we'll help you if you make sure it's specifically on this console only, or oh, we like it and we would like to help you out.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate that to a degree where it's just like they'll market something only if like you'll be exclusive to their like
Yeah.
console. What did that? I believe I think it was like
Epic
Steam.
really kicked it off.
There's a lot of stuff. Bayonetta was like that too because Platinum was like going down like the crash chute at the time, and so like they had to deal with that, which sucks.
If I'm correct, the reason why that even happened was because what game was it? It wasn't whatchamacallit. This was their first time going. If I'm correct, this was their first time going, Daniel. I think originally they were going to work on Okami 2. I think, if I'm remembering the story correctly, because I know the Okami 2 drama that happened. But I think they were working on that until some guy who worked with it at either I think at Platinum at the time or worked at Nintendo in general was working with them because Nintendo was like, "Hey, we'll give you the money and everything to make Okami 2." They're like, "Oh yeah, cool." And dude got bad because he got fired, so he went and leaked that Okami 2 was coming out. That was going to be a thing, and Nintendo completely cut that off. They're like, "Oh well, people found out. Nope, sorry, we're not making a game." And I was like, "What?" Like
Oh wow.
and I think that's, and if I'm correct, that might have been why Platinum was going down the trash chute. If it was that game that did it, because I know it happened again with Scalebound. Scalebound, they lost a lot of money.
Dear Lord. Yeah, scale
Near saved them from that.
it would have been really nice if they actually did make Scalebound, but then again, Scalebound kind of looks like Monster Hunter
Well, it
Stories.
was Scalebound looked like it was Monster Hunter and Devil May Cry fused together.
Yeah, it would have been. I mean, it would have been interesting though because they play like both games
Yeah,
and like they're so significantly different, and I like them for their individual reasons. If I kind of had that happen in its own game, I would. I think I would be a little bit concerned about its game.
yeah. Well, we'll never know. There's a universe where it did come out, and who knows if it was good or bad.
Who knows? I
I
mean, usually Platinum tends to make good games, but yeah, they tend to have some stinkers too. And they're not safe from that.
Yeah, what kind of sucks about some of the stinkers though is usually because of just like the people they're working with at the time.
Yeah.
Because I know Nickelodeon really screwed them up with that one, like Bo with the Legend of Korra one, because they were like, "Hey, we need this out by a certain time," and Platinum's like, "But we need more time. We don't care because we don't understand video games." Because I've played the Legend of Korra one, and I'm like, I could feel it. And as you, like, I'm not sure if you've played it, but I play it. When I played it, I could feel like there is something more here. They had something going. If they had more time, this could have been a really good game.
I've I've never actually I think the only actual like Avatar game I played was like one from like a PS2 one where we played the from the Last Airbender one where I don't even think I like remember what exactly uh what was it? But it was like you basically could play. I think you could only play as Aang, but like it was a top down like beat 'em up, and it was really fucking weird.
I don't
It was
know.
really weird. I don't even know how long I played that ago, and I don't think I'm gonna remember.
I don't believe it because I don't. I really don't even know what you're talking about with that one because I don't remember that one.
I don't either. Because I'm sitting here trying to figure that out, but I don't remember the name of it. It was an Avatar game, but
Ah man.
whatever. Yeah, that's I'll figure that out and then probably DM it to you.
I was gonna say, have you any other like kind of like Discord like at least seen people kind of be kind of not good at talking about animation, like people who don't animate at all who think they can talk about it.
Do I have people who are like, not really?
I mean, at least
If any,
interacted with. I mean,
I mean, in my past, yeah, I did. uh, I especially had like one person who, and I'm not sure if this was like a joke or if they were serious, but they would like have this situation where it's like they would like consider themselves like godlike in what they did, even though that they were like even though they were like okay at best. And it was like it was infuriating, not because of like where they were, like their confidence or anything. It was more infuriating because it's like you couldn't really tell if they were joking or not.
oh, okay, I see what you mean.
So like when you sit there and you're just like when you're talking to them about like that kind of stuff, it's like they in a sense kind of come off like very condescending, like if they have like some sort of like god complex or some shit or superiority complex. But at the same time, it's so exaggerated you don't really know if it's and so it's like you're on a constant loop of like trying to figure that shit out. And that's one of the people I had to like deal with. And then I had another person who and I don't even know why, but like they had a problem with me because I was trying to get more confidence in like my actual art and like drawing and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But this because this dude and like his friend and all that stuff, they they actually legit cursed me out. I was like, by the way, I was like 14 at the time, and they were like full grown adults. So like,
Oh
I
shit.
had full grown adults literally curse me out, a fucking teenager who already has a lot of fucking problems in the first place, anyways. Uh, Basically just in there saying, "Fucking stop being a baby" or some shit. I hated it. I just hated talking to them.
I get that. That's
Uh,
just. Oof.
yeah, and yeah, the same one of those same dudes who I used to be very close to actually. Uh, Winded up just like out of nowhere started hating me, and I finally asked the question upon why the hell he's like treating me the way he is, and it's like, and his reason, and it was like it's just the dumbest reason is because it's like oh I didn't like where your art was going and he was like sitting there acting all super confident and all that shit. It's like you guys literally cursed me out for not being confident on top of the fact that I'm being moderate with my confidence. I'm being like, all right, I'm not that good, but I am trying. I think it's because I've said because I'm not good with like words. Sometimes I'm absolutely trash with words. And I think what set him off was 'cause I said what I meant to say was during one of the things was like, oh yeah, but a lot of the good artists aren't really posting at the moment. And I think I referred to like me, but I was also referring to like other people. But I think it came off as if I was like saying like nobody else before me and these people I approve of are good. um which was which probably set him off, which that is reasonable. But I really wish he like specified that. But yeah, it we did not end on good terms.
Yeah.
And I had some fucking ass college student come to me about like me being a man and all that shit. And it's like, yeah, no, if I want to hear someone tell me how to be a man, I'll go to someone in my family who knows how to be a man and actually has a fucking family, not some dude still in college who carries a water jug around just so he can get something to fucking jackass.
uh,
Uh,
ooh,
yeah, I don't bother with people like that. I
I
really
get
don't.
that. I think the only time I get kind of tiresome of people when it comes to animation is just like how I did bring up the Steven Universe thing of like the idea that people are okay or saying, oh, it's not bad if they're always off model kind of thing,
Who
uh,
the
or they
who
hate
says that?
something that's like that has good animation because it's popular.
Oh my God.
Hmm.
No, uh, I have currently I'm in a group of people who do actually have like jobs and stuff with animation, or at least are currently doing either freelancing or really active in social media with it, or one of those things. And when it comes to like popular animation, they do not downplay it. They do, of course, they're weird in like a lot of tastes, but like they do appreciate hard work when they see it,
Yeah,
and they don't like downplay it in the slightest. And matter of fact, they're very open to a lot of things and a lot of experimental stuff, which is really nice.
yeah. And I know another thing I don't like care for is like how they kind of also how I've seen people read like more or less downplay the like how animation is like hard work. I know that happens a lot with like one team I would go with is like the people who do Black Clover series.
Hmm.
How from what I've seen, they can do good animation when they're given the time and when they're given the time in the team. When they don't have the team when they don't have the time or the team, their animation is not going to be great.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like you would definitely are going to need time. Like if not anything, time is the biggest thing you're because it is very time consuming. Like probably animation is probably one of the few most time consuming skills to have. No, of course there's probably others. Not if I know there's tons, but like artistic wise, like animation is one of the few that are like the most time consuming. And I'm not even talking about like learning or anything. You can like be experienced and it would still like depending on like the ambition of your project and how many how much people you have in staff, how clean you want the animation to be, do you want a certain particular style, do you want all this detail, you want a lack of detail or anything like that, will depend how much time usually tends to go into it on top of like the amount of effort that needs to be into it too.
Okay, that's it.
So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
I mean, I would expect so, because there's animation. Because I know back when I was a kid, I always thought animation was done with like within a week. And so I got a lot older and realized, oh, they've been working on this stuff for like months and years on end. Never mind. Before it like the
Yeah,
first episode comes out.
it's funny enough. I never actually thought that. I just thought they like popped up. It was like, oh shit, awesome. And then I started doing it. I was like, wow, that's totally not how it works.
All right, let me ask you. We only have like two questions left, but next one I have to ask you is any random animation facts you'd like to share? 'Cause I know you shared one earlier, so well, you've shared a couple since we started. But anything else?
uh, hmm, yeah. If you're doing if you're doing animation, especially keyframes, if you're doing keyframe animation, don't just make it one movement to another. If you're going to do keyframe animation, and this was pioneered by a keyframe animator who worked on Evangelion. Um, Make sure that when you're doing keyframes, you actually animate pretty much the actual movements. The only thing that you're not doing is in between. So, say if I was to make like a somebody throwing a ball, I wouldn't just sit there and just do the standing straight to the throwing pose. I would sit there and do the standing, and I would do the wind up, and I do the foot forward, and then I would do the throw, and then that would give more clarity for the people who are doing in betweens, or if you're doing in betweens, upon where a lot of your focus should be. Basically,
Like, kind of just you have to like at least show movement happening.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's keyframe animation is still animation, so treat it as such.
Oh, okay. I know what you mean by keyframe. Like, even if you're not like animating it like fully animation, you're seeing the character walk, but just keyframe animation of you do position how the legs will look like if they're running or walking.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about with that.
it's also pretty it's pretty common to sit there and look at like storyboards and think like that's the keyframes. No, those aren't the keyframes. That's they're called storyboards for a reason. Keyframes have a lot more frames in between them, and they're usually conveying motion. So yeah, basically.
Huh.
Uh, Another thing is, excuse me. Uh, Another thing you want to keep in mind is don't go straight for like doing like secondary sketches and stuff like that.
Like, what do you
If
mean?
anything, like I've seen so many animators, at least like beginners, choosing a lot of stuff, sit there and try and go straight into like doing like the full bodies or something like that for like their storyboards and like no, if you're gonna do a storyboard, basically, and this is as crude as I can put it, get it over with. Like do it as crude as possible, but understandable. So that you can actually get to the actual process of animation.
Okay, like kind of just at least have more one part of it done, so you like. I'm trying to figure out how to word it. I'm just going with the first sentence I said. Just make it at least just have one part completely done before you
Yeah,
kind of
once
just
you've
keep going.
actually seen like productions of storyboards, basically the thumbnails of the storyboards, they're very crude. They are very crude, they're very simple and bare bones, basic. And the idea is that first of all, you're trying to get it done so you can actually do the actual time consuming part. On top of the fact that you're not wasting your energy on something that's most likely going to change when you're actually doing the animation. Um, there's a lot that would actually change, and not a lot of people notice this, but there's a lot that usually tends to change when you go from storyboard to animation. Certain scenes are either sometimes cut or entirely changed. Some pacing is like different, some timings are different. So keeping that in mind, you want to make sure that you have the idea down, so that when you get to that part where you need to edit, you don't have to sit there and go through the whole situation where it's like, oh, I wasted all this time sitting there doing this. Now I have to sit there and like uh remove it. Like you waste a lot less time when you just simplify it and just understandably just get it over with and done so that you can get to like the actual animation and edit it.
Okay. I do know. I know on the chat, Destiny had a question for you. He was asking, do you use your imagination to find movement?
Yes and no.
Alright.
No. Yes, I use my imagination to know what I want to do, but if I want to convey certain movements, no. I will do one of two things if I want certain specific movements. I will either A, act it out myself just to get the feel for it, or B, I'll look up reference.
Yeah.
Never. It is not a good idea to do an unfamiliar movement straight from your imagination. Do it if you need to. If you can't do it, like say for instance you need a backflip and you can't do backflips, look up a backflip. Because it is going to mess you up and you're not going to get certain movements and you're not going to get certain timings right when you don't know how the action like works.
Okay. Because I know the same thing can go for stuff like actually just drawing in general. Because even then with drawing, I know people always say it's better. It's always good to look at references so
Very,
you
it
get
is
an understand
very,
of what you're drawing.
yeah, it is very good.
Because without references, it is difficult to kind of get that idea of what you're trying to do, especially if you're doing animation.
Yeah, I think common stigma is the fact that people tend to think that it's cheating. If you think that you're fucking stupid, I'm sorry.
I agree. I agree because it's just like it's references. It's not a
It's there,
you're not
yeah,
caught.
it's there to help. It's there to help.
Because even then, I know I've seen and know artists who at least say it like at least even admit like who's shown that it's okay if you want to use my drawing as a reference as long as you're not like copying it beat for beat or tracing over and stuff like that. And
Yeah, like you're just using it so you can just figure things out that you don't, or
yeah,
like use something at a new angle that you haven't done before. Basically, you're building up a visual library,
yeah.
um, just to help you in the near future.
I do. I was gonna. Let me think. You have any other kind of advice you like to give out? Not advice. Random facts you like to give out.
And in fact, uh, random fact: Yo-Yo Shinari used to do My Little Pony fan art.
Who?
Yo-Yo Shinari, the person who's actually the director for Brand New Animal.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, the more you know.
He was not just the director for Brand New Animal, he was also the art director of Little Witch Academia.
Well, the more you know.
Yeah, he's a good animator. He is one of the people I tend to look up to.
But again, actually that makes even more sense when I think about it because of how like because since I know him and you mentioned that go back to Trigger real quick. Cause I know Trigger sometimes does do animation for like sometimes American stuff. Cause I know they did do that for like Amazing World of Gumball at one point. And I was just like, Jesus. Because when I had to look it up at who it was, I'm like, oh, it was Trigger who did this. Because
Actually,
it was a fight
actually,
scene.
funny fact, it's not actually by them.
It isn't.
uh, no, it was inspired by them.
Oh,
But
okay.
again, remember when I talked about Studio 4 Degrees or
Yeah.
4C? They're the actual ones who actually did that.
Okay.
Yeah, they just took inspiration from Trigger. They couldn't get Trigger themselves.
I gotta say, like, oh, there was someone that team must be really cool with someone at Trigger to get them to even help out with this.
It, Amazing what Gumball has like Gumball has so many actors though. Like they have so many like different like animators for different type of styles of things that is ridiculous.
It was one of the more weird animation shows that like each you're not sure what type of thing they're gonna do this time.
Yeah, I know people would sit there and say like, oh, but like the fact that they don't do the meta stuff subtly kind of ruins it because now it's just like it's not as subtle as it used to be. It's like the show wasn't about it being subtle in the first place anyway. The
I,
show was there about just being over the top. And if being over the top requires them to sit there and be very meta, then they will.
I mean, you could take the meta in the degree of how some characters are animated completely different They had a 3D T-Rex walking around with 2D characters. So it was just like subtlety kind of went out the window.
Yeah, there is no subtlety, and the fact that it was like also the real world stuff, right?
Yeah, like oh
Um,
yeah, I forgot. Especially with that fact of like everything's real. Like there's like you could walk that look like that's a street you could just walk down on in real life.
uh, and also they like talk about real world topics, which that also people tend to have like a complaint about, but it's like the reason why it works for Amazing World Gumball is that despite them being real world topics, they're topics that are still relevant to this day.
Yeah,
And they're not like, and it's not like a criticism in a sense. It's just joking around about it. It's basically a major shit post.
pretty much.
Like a high budget shit post. Just making fun of those things because like they do not care. And you can tell they don't.
They're
They
just there
just
to
like,
have fun, man.
yeah, they like what they do.
It's too bad it ended. That was just like,
Yeah.
I know. I always keep hearing the rumors of they're eventually gonna have that movie, and I'm like, oh, what if it happens, I'll wait.
I mean, to be fair, Invader Zim was supposed to have a movie, and eventually they did. It just took them too
It took them very long.
long. The movie was entertaining though.
Oh yeah, it was.
Was it worth the wait? Eh, it was okay. But I do say it is still a movie I still rewatch.
Yeah.
It is a fun movie.
The last question I have for you is any advice you'd like to give out to people who might also be doing animation or even plan on getting into that?
Yeah, just I'm just gonna refer to what I said earlier. Don't be too over ambitious, because then you won't get it.
Don't get
Uh,
anything done.
Basically, if you try and do something that is way above your skill level or way above your own tolerance and patience, you are going to fuck yourself over.
Oof.
There's no way to
Yeah.
do it. Even if you do complete the project, I will tell you this right here and right now. If you did that by yourself and you was like you had this crazy ass ambition and you struggled at any point, like you struggled, like okay, it's okay to struggle, but if you struggle to a point where it's like in a sense kind of like a development hell, then it's not gonna turn out like a good project like 70% of the time. There's a good 30 that has turned out good, but those good 30 have like their own like kind of underlying factors going into it that kind of is the reason why they succeed. So most of the time if you're going to like do a project, just start where you know you can finish.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because you don't want to do like you don't want to sit there and get too carried away and just be like, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna make a whole fight animation that's like 5 minutes long, but it has all these characters and all that stuff. It's like,
Just take your
no,
time.
just take your time. Take one baby step, basically. Start off with like doing something that only had one character, start, and then like move on to like adding more and more, or like progressively add more throughout the animation that you're doing, or something like that. Just don't overdo it. Ambition's going to kill your project. Ambition's going to well, over ambition basically is going to kill your project. It has killed many things and it has ruined many things when you don't have some sort of realism. The reason I say that, uh and the reason why I can sit there and vouch for that entirely is because that's something that I have noticed when I started trying to do projects. I remember when I was younger, I wanted to do like this massive project of like two gods going at each other, and it was supposed to be like a collaboration with like a bunch of people, but I didn't know how to make people collaborate because I never even worked with other people.
Yeah.
So yeah, only recently, like now, I've kind of like dealt my like pretty much dipped my toes into that situation. And there's also the to put it into perspective of like why being too overly ambitious uh is not a good idea. I want to actually compare two games that I have played a lot as of recently, and that was of course I stopped playing Warframe, but Warframe and Monster, I constantly I still play Monster Hunter to this day. I even play the older titles. It's super. Uh, Warframe falls under that category of it being too overambitious. Because it has all these ideas and like all these crazy things, and they put it into the game, and then you realize none of this stuff feels connected. None of this stuff makes sense, and it feels like each thing that you're doing doesn't affect other. It basically it feels like one giant circle jerk of grind. Where comparatively to Monster Hunter, you doing one thing will benefit you for pretty much the rest of the game in some sort of fashion. Um, if you wanted to fight Roman or Gigante, that's a whole thing with Iceborne, uh, which is an Elder Dragon. Um, you can sit there and do that, and it will usually give you stuff to improve your weaponry, and then your weaponry you can use to kill like a random monster, like a Kuyaku, and then that Kuyaku can have like an armor piece you need to sit there and up your skills, and then get those skills up to sit there and work on beating another Elder Dragon, and then you can beat that Elder Dragon for its armor set, so you can use that armor set to beat, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? Basically everything is going to link off of each other because everything has the foundation that it needs before it tries to like go with like the more ambitious stuff. And I also like how Capcom restrained themselves from doing the underwater fights that they did in Monster Hunter 3, I believe. Because underwater fights within Monster Hunter 3 was an ambitious thing, but it was also really janky and buggy.
Yeah.
And trying to add that in World, which is already something that was extremely new, take when it came to Monster Hunter, because Monster Hunter did not have what it has now, because I, I'm gonna say this: World is very new to a lot of what Monster Hunter is. Uh, it is a lot more. There's a lot more control of your character. Um, things are a lot more dynamic, and there isn't constant pausing. So you're always like basically again, you're basically on the move always. So having situations where you're underwater was too much because they already had so much going on that if they tried to do this thing, it was most likely going to be its own thing. It was going to be isolated, and it was probably not going to tie into anything, and people would probably hate it too.
I agree to that.
So, yeah, so just don't, d- basically don't be Warframe. Be be Monster Hunter. Know what you want to do, start off simple and then grow that, because what they did with Monster Hunter 1 is that it's Monster Hunter 1 is very simple. Um and then they gradually added things over time, because like they didn't have all the weapons that they did, and that they do now, because I think in 1 they only had like 5. I think they had, I think it was just the long sword, the great sword, the sword and shield, dual blades, and the bow. And then as kind of the games went on, they started adding like gradually more and more weapons, and now you have heavy bow guns, light bow guns, insect glaives, which has a whole entire mechanic of its own, charge blades, well, not long swords, improved longsword mechanics though, but and just etc. And just like all this crazy shit that you wouldn't even dream of if you started off with the first game, but there you are. And it's just the fact that they've grown into like doing these more ambitious things rather than just doing it and just failing miserably.
Yeah.
So yeah, let yourself grow into doing more ambitious projects. Start off small, and then like, yeah, basically keep going at it, upping the ante every time until you get to a point where you feel like you've actually reached your limit, and and then pretty much there you go. And sometimes people don't even have like a limit. Some people like continue going. Some people com- continue to only like exceed their expectations um of their own and others. And I've seen a lot of people do that. Yutaka Nakamura basically being one of those, because and then there's also like Spencer Ron and Whalen, who are, by the way, they're all like action figures, but every time they like do something new project wise, they always like up like they always make it better every time they do something new. So it's like they're not starting off with like crazy shit. They started off with like small stuff and then got like even more crazy shit. And that's what people I feel like should like follow more.
Okay. That was really. Oh, this has been a really interesting interview and talk with you, Feline. I was glad that
Yeah,
you came on and everything.
I really did enjoy talking to you, Capsule.
Did you? I mean, talking to you, not talking to me. I'm not.
No, I know what you meant.
The moment I said that, I was like, wait a minute.
uh,
One of my friends might be asking if you do commissions or anything like that.
I will eventually. If you want to follow my Twitter, it's literally just FelineCanis.
It's also down below in like the links and everything.
Yeah, but currently I am in the middle of a project, so I won't be doing that for a while.
Yeah. Let's just let the people know also down below as well. I have the podcast topics that you can I have two things up with a poll for what you want to choose for the next podcast. Mind you, the next one's I've already decided what the next one's gonna be. It's just up to the person for when they want to do it. The next one will have another special guest here that will be a familiar person. A very Reaper person who's somewhat of a nice guy.
That man called me a boy toy earlier.
That man's gonna get banned next time I see him. By ban, as I'm gonna take a ban hammer to him in real life. I know where you live.
Dear Lord. All right. It was really like again. It was really nice talking to you. Now I'm gonna go ahead and play Animal Crossing.
Okay, it was good to have you on. Thank
All
you.
right. Bye.
Oh, see you. Thank you all for coming on today. It was nice to have some people come on here and listen. As I said before, Feline's links are down below in the description for where links are, and like I said, podcast topics. If you want to if you want to like put anything down, and be like, hey, you guys should start talking about this, or this might be an interesting topic. And then also have another poll up for other things you can choose for a Dragon Ball community, gaming community. Next one, which I am proud of for the title, Wakanda Anime with a special guest. Paranormal and Supernatural with Artemis once again. Life and Time of playing VR chat, which would that'd be a topic discussion more or less just me and talking to some friends who played the game and like anything they experienced and stuff like that. And then Discord stories, just anything in the wild that's happened. And then maybe you just get some people together and just talk about some crazy and funny stories we wanted to share with each other and other people. So thank you all for coming again tonight. Hope you all have a pleasant evening, morning, afternoon, whatever. And also, I'll be uploading this to YouTube. Share if you want it. Thank you. And once again, like I said before, and I keep saying it, thank you all for coming today. Have a good night.